Hello, guys, and welcome back. It's Michael, and this is the SEVICS Africa YouTube channel. So, welcome to the tribe. It's a real great opportunity to be hanging out with you all once more. So, I'm really sorry not being able to put out a lot of content lately, and the reason the year has been crazy, right? We're starting uh, off with lots of real crazy stuff happening, and I realized that if I kept waiting for the time when I'd be able to make all of those kind of videos I'm used to making, then we're gonna be waiting a long time. So I will be resorting to live streams, and I hope that that's good enough to uh, keep the channel going and also to get across to you as much information as I can. So if it's your first time on the channel, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you're notified every time I make new content. Thank you all for watching. And yep, today we're going to talk about African masks. And this is a video I have waited for so long to make, probably because it reflects a personal struggle that I have had, other people are having, because lately I have been getting lots and lots of uh, I've been getting emails, I've been getting Instagram messages and all that. So I know that there are people out there who would want to know a thing or two about African masks. Um, yeah, sorry about that. Just have to be sure that the sound is good. And the reason is because I had this live stream set up before now, and somewhere along the line, I realized that okay, we did not have any sound, so I had to delete that and start all over again. So today, let's talk about why you might be called by a mask. Yeah, and I know that sounds like a real strange idea, but just hear me out, and maybe this might just make a little bit of sense to you. Now, I think the reason why I get lots of emails and I get messages on my Instagram, from people sending me pictures of masks and asking if I can interpret what it means. What's the symbol? What's this mask saying? It's because you feel drawn to it. And the question is, how do you explain, that feeling of attraction to an African mask when you probably aren't even African? Or maybe you might have had uh, some African origin maybe a long time ago, and yeah, even though it's easy to say, yeah, I want to reconnect to my roots, we all know that it's not a very easy thing to accomplish, right? Because most times we dabble with things we don't understand. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to fully understand what it means to be African. And if you feel that way, know that you're not alone, because we all have those confusing moments. We all have those questions too. What does it mean to be who I'm supposed to be? Am I representing all I should? And what the hell are these masks trying to say? So, if you have been experiencing that pull, that attraction to African masks, maybe you collect, or or maybe you collect other stuff, but a particular mask just stands out to you, or you have other experiences, which I will be talking about shortly in this live stream. Then uh, we're gonna explain all that. Yeah, because there is such a thing as a call. So if you're a religious person, then you're probably conversant with people saying, I feel called by God. I feel called by the divine to perform a certain role in God knows what. Those kinds of stuff. And the truth is, yes, calls do exist, but then calls are not entirely limited or restricted to a particular religious organization because people are drawn to all sorts of things. There are people who are drawn to comedy, and all that makes them happy and makes them feel fulfilled is if they're able to make other persons laugh. There are people who are, called to fashion, and they love to see people properly dressed, and they love to make dresses for people, or at least, help people look good. There are people who want to see you become more confident, become the best confident version of yourself. And so all they want to do is, talk some sense into you. If they have to hit you a bit in the head so that you become that confident woman or man that you're meant to be, they would do just that. And some people use just masks, right? And these these masks just stand out, and they just seem to be everywhere. Even when you notice that some other persons who are close to you don't seem to understand the obsession with these things. And yeah, let's clear the air a bit, because then if someone says you act possessed or you act as if this thingy, like the kind of stuff you see in horror movies, where there's a mask or there is an object that is possessed, and then it's calling out to you, and then it's manipulating a person, or somehow gets control of them or possesses them, that kind of stuff. And you'd probably want to know, are masks associated with spirits, like African masks, they're associated with spirits? And the answer is yes. African masks are associated with spirits, with African spirits, of course. That should be quite obvious, yes. And that's because a lot of masks have ritual purposes. Some have, ancestral worship purposes, and some just play different, maybe social and spiritual roles in the community. And therefore, if you acquire masks as that, then there are chances that you might encounter whatever spirits are associated with masks, that kind of stuff. So, yes, a lot of African masks are associated with spirits, not all, but a good deal of them. So, if you're a collector or you have a stack of African masks or you're thinking of getting one, chances are you could get one that has had a thing or two with the spirit, and you might want to be careful with those. But trust me, if the mask is reaching out to you, then you don't have to really be scared. But if it isn't, you're just curious and stuff, then well, just be careful, especially if you don't know what you're doing, right? Okay, great. So, but is masks associated with spirits? Does that make them sacred? And I would say yes. Virtually, like every African mask is sacred, and I can say that for two main reasons. Reason number one would be that um, they are an expression of a people's culture or belief. They embody people's tradition, and that I think is good enough for it to be sacred. Yeah. So they don't have to have divine manifestations or some occult, powers, and they're able to spit fire, and for them to be considered sacred. Yeah, they embody our tradition, our beliefs, and therefore I think that's that's good enough. But then, second, there are some masks that items of worship have been items of encounter with the supernatural, and yeah, those also exist, and those are also sacred. So yeah, those are some of the two reasons why I would consider every African mask sacred, because one, some have actually been used in sacred worship, but every mask out there is an embodiment of African beliefs and culture, and I think masks should be treated with respect. But now that we have those out of the way, the question is, how do you know if you are called by a mask? And maybe this is a very good time to share a personal story, because for the longest time, I have just wanted to make videos about every other stuff, right? I did not intend to make videos about African masks for the longest time. I just want to talk about project management and CV writing and all those kinds of stuff. And if you've been on this channel for quite some time, you'd notice that we started off making those kinds of videos and we made a lot of them. But today we've created a new channel where we're growing slowly and we're putting in efforts to make all those kinds of other fun videos I really enjoy because the Cervix Africa YouTube channel will now totally be dedicated to talking about African cultures, African belief systems, African masks, and all these kinds of stuff, right? Great. So, in this video, we're going to talk a lot about how to know if you're called and how these calls manifest. And if you've sent an email or a message on Instagram and I do tell your story, my apologies, please. And if I do not tell your stories, my apologies too. Uh, at some point, I'm going to make a compilation of some of these emails, and that way it's going to help other persons who are having similar experiences understand that they are not alone and that there is some purpose to these experiences. So, the first way you would know that you're called is if you're having dreams. And then, if you consistently dream of masks, sometimes it could be random masks, sometimes it could be a particular mask, and maybe you there are people who see a mask floating over the waters, mask floating in the air, and they're just doing anything, and then it just comes to them every now and then. But then sometimes the mask on the face, on a person, and the person is putting it on, and then sometimes it's you putting on the mask, right? Now, going to mean entirely different stuff, and trust me, I'm not even going to attempt or pretend that I can interpret all of your dreams because I don't know if I can, right? But I'm just going to try to paint a few scenarios. Yeah. So, um, a lot of times, if you see masks in your dreams, where I come from in my culture, it might be different elsewhere, but where I come from, those encounters would refer to encounters with Agu, right? And Agu is the god of wisdom. It's the spirit of the call. It's a sign that you have a special assignment, and that you might have some divine purpose for your life besides maybe having a family and doing what regular people do. There might be a little bit of extra something in there for you, and you need to pay very close attention if dreams like that persist. So what people do is when they dream consistently of mass, especially if they've been born and raised in the diaspora, they would go shop for a mask and then find something they can appropriate with what they've been seeing, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, I think I'm supposed to own this. And I dare say there could be collectors out there who have collected tons and tons of stuff because they have had dreams like well, that may be true, but in some cases, the mission might be a little different, and it calls for introspection. It calls for a self-examination, and sometimes subjecting oneself to consultations, and then you will know for sure what the mask is saying. Because if you saw yourself attacked by masked men, men or women putting on African masks over their faces, it means an entirely different thing than if you saw yourself putting on the mask yourself, or maybe you found a mask, or you encountered, some mask somewhere, or those kinds of stuff. So it all means different stuff. But if you're having considered dreams where you're seeing masks, you may need to take note of that and try, maybe go consult with a spiritualist or someone uh, who can read these things, and they'll be in a better position to explain to you what you need to do. But when you dream of masks, it does not mean you should go buy one. Yes. And then number two, let's talk about trance and apparitions. And I got an email a while back from someone who said every time they meditate, they see this African mask. and the African mask seems to drift towards them, and it happens every single time. And when I hear stuff like this, the first thing I'd want to know is, are you African? Are you of African descent? Maybe not in the last generation. Could have been from a time past, because this could also be a sign of a call, right? It could mean that uh, there's there's a being somewhere that wants to have an encounter with you, that wants to walk with you, and unfortunately, you will have to find a way to go deeper, find a way to dispose yourself to learn to hear, to understand the message. You have to find a way to align with the spiritual plane. That way, it'll be easier for you to have that conversation, because apparitions that repeat time over time oftentimes suggest that there is a message to be given, but the mode of communication isn't just set up. A lot of times, because the channels, the communication channels don't exist. So maybe there are alignments you need to do. Maybe there are certain lives that are keeping you from being spiritually on the same level as the spirit that wants to come through and have that conversation with you, right? And and so if it's an apparition appearing to you, maybe at your time of meditation, or in your home, or at your time of rest, or sometimes, appearing physically to hold conversations and meetings with you, then it isn't something you should run away from. Because in my experience, I've met lots of people, including myself, at some point, that I would run away from these experiences. And if you have a Christian background, chances are you'd probably be praying about it, casting and binding. And if you've tried that already, you'd probably know that it does not solve the problem, right? So if you've had these encounters, operations, and then you've tried to pray and pray and pray, and they keep coming and coming and coming, then I would advise you to just listen, right? You know, you should listen, because what you see as apparitions in your trance might already be a part of who you are. And so sometimes when we pray against some of these things, we might actually be praying against, who we are on the inside, in our heart of hearts. And that almost never ends well for you, because it's like fighting your own self, right? So if you've got to the point where you're having trances and apparitions, again, you need to go talk to spiritualists. If you need a recommendation, I could make one, and there are a bunch of them here on YouTube. Yes, and one that quickly comes to mind is Derek from the Medicine Show. Yeah, you could have a session with him, and he can help you understand better what you're seeing and what you are experiencing. And yes, the third way you could know that you're called by a mask is if you have that strong sense of attraction to it, and you can't seem to get your mind off it. You want to be around masks, you want to touch them, you want to clean them, you want to stay close to them, you want to own one. Then chances are, yes, you might actually have this call, and there's something you really need to take a bit seriously, right? Because life does not have a lot of coincidences. There are not a lot of eventualities that just happen to happen, right? Everything happens for a reason, and I would love to encourage you to uh, pay attention. And yes, just like I've said in some of the points, simply because you feel, really attracted to masks, you have that sense, uh, that strong sense of connection with them, don't mean you should go on buying every mask in the market or filling up your home with them, because if you've tried it already, you'd know that it does not give you the satisfaction because your call may not just be to acquire physical masks, but to connect deeper with the spirit of the mask that you feel drawn to. I don't know if that makes any sense. Great. So, next, let's talk about obsessions. Yeah, obsessions are kind of similar to being possessed, and you're in a state where you're all about these things. You could fly to Africa just to get some new masks. You'd order anything you find online, even if you're getting cheated, even if you're not getting value for your money. You just don't give a care at all. You just want to have a piece of that African thingy. Well, it may not really mean what you think. First you'd want to find out if you're obsessed with every kind of African mask or with a particular kind of African mask. And once you figure that out, then you'd want to be very certain if there is more to your obsession, or if are you obsessed with looking at it, or with touching it, or with owning it, or with saying something to it, or with doing some stuff with it. Because a lot of times in our spiritual journey, the the spirits that we encounter are going to educate us and lead us on the right path to the things we are supposed to become, to the things that we're supposed to do. And so uh, you got to be patient, right? And you have to give yourself that opportunity to grow and to learn. And finally, the fifth way you're going to know that you are called is if you have visitations. And this goes beyond apparitions and dreams and all of those kinds of stuff. That's like cool, it's like having a friend walk into your home, or come to visit at your workplace, or run into you in the mall and leave you with a message. And this time you're having a conversation because there is stuff that they have for you. Now I believe that at this level, a lot of things are clearer because you're not just having these phasey dreams and you're not quite sure what they mean. At this stage, things are a lot clearer because then you're able to communicate to some extent with whoever this is or whatever this is, and it becomes kind of uh, obvious what you need to do. And what I'd advise is, at this stage, you need to listen more because from my own personal experience, what happens is you begin to doubt, and a lot of times people want to run away. So you're having these strange experiences, these strange encounters. You don't know what they are, and you might become scared. Don't be, because then if you're meant to fulfill a certain role, if you're meant to do some job, if you're meant to fulfill a certain destiny, chances are it's for your own good and it's for the good of all the people around you. And there are human beings, there are people who are waiting for you to become the best version of yourself because their destinies depend on you, their well-being depends on you, their healing depends on you, the words of wisdom that would turn their lives around depends on you, the books that have not been written but that they need to read to become who they should be depend on you. And a lot of times, until we go on this journey, we do not fully realize who we are or who we're supposed to be, right? So do not be afraid, and let's think about the next steps, because I know that's kind of what a lot of people want to know. So what if I discover this point that the attraction, the love, or those visions, those dreams you've been having, involving certain masks or different masks, yeah, are not just empty encounters, but actually means something. What would you do, or what should you do? And the first thing I would usually advise is give yourself a little time. Yeah, and if you're anything like me, you'd run. I ran for a long deal of time. I did not want to have these experiences anymore. I did not want to have to always come back to this. And how interesting it got with me was, uh, I made my first mask video by chance. Happened just accidentally. But then I started getting comments on my YouTube video, and that did not used to happen. So I kind of creeped out a bit, right? And then I started getting emails, and people would mail me and they'll say, "Oh, guy, can we talk a bit about this mask thing? Can you talk to me?" And I'm like, "Okay, wait, I'm not a mask expert. Why do people want to know about masks?" And then I'd get Instagram messages, and people want to know, "Oh, here's a picture of a mask that I picked up. Can you talk?" And I'm like, "Hell, fucking no. Oh, shit, I just cussed two times." Okay, but at least that gets across the sentiment that I had, right, for the longest time. And the more you fight, the worse it gets. So I would say give yourself time to accept the new reality of who you are. And when you're done accepting your new reality, then you have to embrace the next step, which is to do a little bit of consultation, right? Speak to someone, share your story, share your experiences, and let someone guide you. And when you have a guide, then you want to ensure that you're aligned with the spirits that's inviting you out to work. Because a lot of times when the supernatural is reaching across the planes to get to you, chances are they have a journey they want you to go on. They have some jobs, some responsibilities that they want you to feel. And it becomes pretty disappointing when a lot of persons are not willing to, to go on the journey to perform those roles, to participate in making the world the best possible place that it can be. And that's kind of crazy, right? And so remember to give yourself time, do some consultations, and find out all you need to do, align, and allow yourself to be used. Yeah, because trust me, I eventually became a believer in some of those things that I say, because for the longest time we have propagated the wrong narratives about Africa. Africa is, the most beautiful place, the most gifted place in the whole universe. And right now we don't quite have it as good as we should, because we forgot our roots. And I will always say that, in the words of the famous writer Chinua Achebe, until the lions learn to ride the tail of the hunt, will always glorify the hunter, right? And so there's a resurgence, there is a reawakening around Africa that is bringing people to wake up, to become more responsible, to become more responsive to the times. And that is why a lot of these calls are happening right about now, because the angels from Africa, according to, was that Paula White? Yeah, the angels from Africa. The angels from Africa want to restore the glories of Africa. And the only way that can happen is by getting Africans back on track, by uh, bringing more people up, raising an army that will work for the restoration of the great kingdoms of Africa, that would get us up in the right spirit to harness and manage our resources better, to lead our people better, to create that ideal world, not only for Africans, but for everyone. And in this generation, I would say we are the luckiest, because we're not the ones who are having to get on the ship to get sold as slaves. We're the ones who are returning to restore the lost glories of Africa. And if you've been having any of those crazy encounters, I would say to you, share your story in the comment section, right? Talk to us about it. Let us go on this journey together and let us know that we are not alone. And most importantly, let's support one another to find the help that we need. So if you're up to it, send me an email, shoot me a message on Instagram, or better still, just drop everything here in the comment section and we're all going to respond to that. So I'd look forward to having this conversation. I will have another live stream where we shall talk some more about African masks and then I will be interpreting masks. Remember, our African masks do not mean the same thing, right? And depending on the features, depending on how they are made, they all have a message. What do these marks mean? What are the eyes saying? And all those kinds of stuff. We're going to respond to all that, and um, I'd look forward to connecting with everyone on this channel more frequently through live streams. And yeah, we're gonna try to make weekly videos. Last year we did grow a lot more than we've grown in any other year before, and I'm really hoping that in this year we're gonna grow even a lot faster and we're gonna achieve greater landmarks. So, um, looking forward to hit 5K subs. And if you're seeing this video and you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you're notified every time I make new content. Thank you for watching and drop comments about your mask experiences in the comment section. See you there.